Continuing on in the closed guard today, we're going to talk about hitting the triangle from the guard. This is a very good example of using our strongest part of our body, our hips and our legs, against the weakest part of our opponent's body, which is their neck. Strangles and chokes are a huge part of jiu-jitsu, so we want to make sure we take the time to maximize the details and maximize our tools against our opponent. So in this closed guard position, I need to first get one of my opponent's arms right outside of my guard. This can be a tricky situation, so let's check this out. Number one, I first like to get my opponent's hands to the mat. So you see how Ian has this good structure right here? He has his arms framing my hips, making it difficult for me to move my hips left and right, and it makes me difficult, or if not impossible, for me to shoot my hips and get my hips to his neck because he's keeping them on the ground. So the first goal is getting my opponent's hands on the mat. So when those frames are strong, I want to be reaching up and attacking the weak point of that structure. That weak point of the structure is going to be the elbows. So notice how I sit up right here. I'm going to flare the elbows out. I call that show me the chicken wings. You can see how I'm getting this bend in the elbows. Now I use my knees for the rest to break them down, making sure he gets his hands on the mat. Now, one thing I want to do from here is as he settles his weight, I'm sliding my hand in, thumb inside the lapel, and I'm going to be wrapping my elbow in nice and tight. This is going to keep that downward pressure on Ian's left side, keeping his hand more on the mat. I'm always kind of pulling this down. Now I'm looking at getting control of this sleeve right here. So he may be able to posture, but I keep him in this medium zone, right? I don't want to pull him all the way down. Now my hips have no mobility, and I don't want him all the way up to where his neck is far from my hips. So we break them down, get the hands to the mat, and I just control him in this medium zone. Now, once I get control of this sleeve, I'm working on rolling my knuckles so I can punch that arm and work it to his chest. If I'm able to establish a really good grip here and look at getting this arm to his chest, he really only has one way that he can try and break that grip. He can't push his arm out because I'm framing it. He ends up doing this sawing motion, right, to try and get that arm free. And we want to time that sawing motion so I feel that 1, I feel that 2, and on that 3, I throw my legs over that arm, ensuring that I let go of it because I need to shove it outside of my triangle. So one more time right there, you see that grip. Let's turn this way. We see this grip. I'm rolling those knuckles and bringing that arm to his chest, right? This is a little game you play. I'm not going to be able to just roll the knuckles, punch it out, and throw up the triangle. I need to be sneaky with it, so I'm controlling his grip. His focus begins, I want to get that arm back. Sawing motion 1, 2, and 3, all the way out. Notice how I'm just trying to get my legs wrapped over his back. So you see this leg that went over his shoulder, my knee should be higher than the head. What that allows me to do is make sure that I have, right, my thigh on the neck. Let's go ahead and start turning this way. The next thing I want to do, see how I just have my triangle locked. It's not super tight. I don't even have my shin in the crook of my knee yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit up. I'm going to reach up for my shin. I'm going to take my foot off. That's going to the hip. What that's going to allow me to do is start making my pivot, bringing this across. If any of you guys are ever doing your triangle and you have this arm on the same side, if you're having trouble locking your triangle because of this arm, we can always bring the hands to the hips. We can always bridge up, passing it across right here. Let's continue our angle, grabbing that shin, right? Pivoting, chopping. So that way here I can lock that triangle, bringing it nice and tight. So the way we're going to finish that here, we're bringing our heel down to our hips. That's going to lock that triangle. I'm pinching my knees. That's going to put more pressure. And the last thing I do is I reach up and I hug nice and tight for the finish. So close guard, opponent's framing. Let's break them down. Get the hands to the mat. I can control nice and high while I sit here and establish my thumb in grip. Now I'm going to push him away right here with my legs, but I keep the arm locked in, establishing my grip. Rolling those knuckles onto his forearm to help me punch. Wait for that seesaw. 1, 2, and 3, up and over. At this point right here, if I want to, I can be heavy on this head. And if you have people that are trying to stack or trying to escape you, if you look to just hug the head first, right, let them kind of posture a couple times. You're attacking that neck. Tire that out, right? I work on that neck. I'd make him tire it out. Then I pass the arm across. Take everything in sections. There's no rush. Focus on the control of the position first. As I control, then I start to tighten that triangle up, trying to get my angle. Always making sure that that knee is above the ear. If you start to do this triangle, you see how I'm turning right here. My knee is below that ear. Turn this way. And you should be able to see some space right here. That's not good for me. I want to make sure that hamstring is on the neck. So see how as I'm sitting up, when I start to bring that shin across his shoulder, right, that's placing my hamstring directly on that neck. I have my knee above the ear, making my pivot, locking my triangle. Remember, there's 3 parts to this. Part number 1 is bringing my heel down to my hip. Part number 2 is pinching those knees. Part number 3 is reach up, hug it, pulling it nice and tight.